I wanted to create this video to show you how to book the W Trek yourself, the step-by-step guide, without the need of a tour guide or any aggregator platform that's going to charge you a fee. So for context, I booked and went on the W Trek last year, figured out firsthand how frustrating the process is, but also thought that there's no resource on the internet that gives you a good overview of how to book it in an easy, straightforward way. So that's why I'm creating this. It's part of my Patagonia Scout.com website, which gives other research and planning tips to Patagonia. But this is one of the most important resources. So to get started, before I show you like the step-by-step pages, it is really important to understand why it's difficult and what to kind of consider before you actually go ahead into the websites and book. So why it's confusing: the nights in each refugio must link together, but the campsites are split across a couple of different platforms. The systems aren't user-friendly. You'll see that in a second when I play around with them. And the costs of the trip as a whole are pretty expensive. So getting one thing wrong could be an expensive error. So it's just important to mitigate that. So the three decisions that you need to make before you open the websites is the dates and direction you're going, how you want to sleep, and how you want to eat. So the first one, the refugios. As you'll see, especially if you're booking in peak times, the refugios are hard to come by. Or they're hard to come by in the exact order that you may initially want. So it's important to first book those and then the flight second. So what that kind of means for your planning is that you need probably a couple of weeks where you are open to doing the W Trek. You might have a dream start date and end date, but you should be flexible around that. And so you want to prioritize booking the actual accommodation first and then booking the flight second. Obviously checking them kind of side by side and making sure that the flights aren't extortionate, but all things being equal, you should check the refugios first. In terms of the direction, there's a lot of debate on this online, whether going west to east is best or east to west. When I did it, went west to east. I feel like it leaves you the most famous hike to the towers in the final morning, which is nice. And if you were to do east to west, you do a very steep climb from the bottom of the valley to the top of the base towers, all on day one, which can be good because you've got fresh legs, but would be an incredibly hard day. Whereas west to east is a bit more incremental, so I'd recommend that, but it's totally fine to be flexible and kind of use that to flex on what refugios you can find. And then in terms of how you want to spend the night, refugio bunks are probably best for solo hikers if you can get them early, but they sell out quickly. Equipped tents is probably the best middle ground for most people, especially couples, because you can split the cost and it saves you a lot of weight. And then the cheapest is going with your own tent, your own sleeping bag, etc., but that's probably only for seasoned campers. And then I'd say food is the one thing that you can be really flexible on. So for example, even if you do ideally want to have full board at the different accommodations, at the last tourist sites, for example, you might be able to find your accommodation, but the food might be run out, for example. In that case, I would kind of just run with the accommodation and just bring some freeze-dried meals. They all have microwaves, they all have hot water, so those are absolutely fine, and it saves you a ton of money as well. So before we actually go into the website and booking, showing how to book, just a reminder on the things you need to check. So having a flexible date window, having the right direction that you want, the sleep style and meal plan decided, having the passport number for guests so that if you do find it, you can act quickly and actually book it there and then, and then having a credit card that's cleared for international payments as well. So in terms of the websites that we'll be using, it's Vertice and Las Torres, and here you can see the campsites that are available at each. So this is kind of like a classic west to east 5-day 4-night accommodation plan. So you'd start at Grey, then to Pen Grande, then to probably Francis or Los Cuernos, and then Chileno or Central. Ideally Chileno, as it doesn't require backtracking where Central would, and it's close to the base towers. Quite a few people skip one night and just stay at Pen Grande, and on the first day just hike to the Grey Lookout and back, which is perfectly fine. That's what we did. And then obviously if you're going the opposite way, you just need to book these in reverse. And then the one rule that you must follow is that each refugio must link up, so you need to be extra careful when booking everything to make sure the dates line up and everything's in sync. Okay, so with that preamble over, let's go to the websites. So we've got these open up here already. We have Las Torres, which is the website for the eastern and central sectors. This will have Francis, Cuernos, Chileno, and Central. And we're going to prioritize this first because Chileno is one of the more sought after accommodations because it's close to the towers and it's often the final stop. So what we're going to do is, firstly, we're under fully equipped camps. We are going to, if you were looking at staying in the refugio, you would switch to mountain cabins, I believe. But we're going to look at the camps for now. And we are going to go for 2 people here on a random date in February. So as mentioned, Chileno is often the hardest to book. And we'll see here that we want to change this to 25th of February anyway, because it'll be the last night of the trek. And my arbitrary dates are going to finish on the 26th. But say if you wanted to finish on the 25th where you check out, you can see it's unavailable. Everything's unavailable, and that just shows you how difficult it can be to line things up. But let's change this to the 25th. And here you can see the not very usable UX, user interface. Okay, so we changed it to 1 date later and we can actually get this. So I'm going to assume I'm in a double with my partner. Click that, collapse that, and then the date beforehand, which is the 24th to the 25th, I want to keep that the same. And we've got lucky here, they kind of align without any unavailability. Everything's available, so I'm going to click here to add that as well. So that's pretty simple. We got lucky though, like we're booking in off season. If we were booking peak season and Chileno was unavailable on that date, you'd have to find a new date and then backtrack and look at Francis and see if that has availability, and if it doesn't, you'd have to choose a new date, and you can kind of get a sense for how annoying the process can be. But before we're clear, we need to check with Vertice as well and make sure that our dates in Pen Grande and Grey are okay. So we want to choose the W circuit, obviously. And then with the interface, you want to choose where you're going to be staying first. So let's assume we're going from west to east. Obviously, if it's east to west, we'd pick Pen Grande first and then Grey. But if we're doing west to east, we're going to pick Grey first because it's the most western point of the park. And then once completed, just stay in Grey. Which of these accommodations would you like to go to? Pen Grande next. And then, did you finish your trek? Yes, I want to choose my dates. So let's go back to here. We've added the 24th for Francis and the 25th for Chileno. So we want the 22nd and the 23rd for Vertice. So we want the 22nd to the 23rd at Grey. And luckily there is availability. And then what you're going to do here, you can select food and stuff later, but to keep it in line with like our fully equipped camp, we'll just add all of these extras, so sleeping bag, tent, mat and pillow. Apply, and I believe that will apply it to both people, both myself and my partner. And then we have Paine Grande, and it's automatically added the date straight after grey. For here we could feasibly choose a bunk bed, but again we'll choose the individual camping site, and again add those options and press continue. So there is kind of the process, the main crux of it. It went pretty smoothly that time, but as you can tell, like, if one thing goes wrong, you'll have to rejig the whole 4 days. And that's why it's complicated, because neither system talks to each other and you can't see lists of days in a row. You can see the prices there as well, in case that's helpful. So $436 and $640, so almost $1,000 between two people for the 4 nights. So then the next thing that you want to do is book the catamaran. So the catamaran is the boat you'll take from basically the entrance of the park, or where the bus drops you off in the entrance of the park, to Paine Grande if you're going west to east, or if you're going east to west, it'll be the boat you take to get you back to Puerto Natales. So you just book that here. All of these links I have a guide for on the Patagonia Scout website that I'll drop in the bio of this video. But you would click here, and I think they've not opened yet for the season. I'm looking at this in July, so it's peak winter there, so they're probably not running right now, but that's the website you would use. And then I've got here the Pass Parks Nacionales, so national park tickets, which again you definitely want to do after you've booked your accommodation in the park, because you actually pick a date here. And I think again these are just not available for next year yet, but when they would become available, you would just click 22nd of February, and you would click see availability, 2 adults, and then Internacional más de uno día. So that means international, obviously, and more than 1 day, which you need because you'll be in the park for 4 or 5. This and the catamaran you can definitely do like a week before your trek, even a couple of days before your trek. We even booked the catamaran on the day of, which I wouldn't recommend, but just a few days before is ample time. And then the buses as well, you can book on Busbud. The company is Bussa. You can easily book those the day before. So just a reminder, a few ways not to lose money during the process, because as I said, it can be a little bit confusing. Obviously, the vital step is not booking 2 different sites or 2 different campsites 2 days apart. So availability is not held between sessions either. So don't book your Las Torres stay on the Monday and think, oh, I'll just finish the task on Wednesday, because the Vertice sites may have been taken by that point. Don't book the flights before your refugios. Don't start too late in the process, especially for single travellers, or solo travellers, because the bunks are likely to sell out and the pitch tent costs far more, but it's a good option for couples. And then if you're an international, just mention that in the forms, because you're exempt from the 19% Chilean tax. That should be applied automatically, but just double check that as well. So that's pretty much it. Again, I hope you found it useful. If you want to learn more about booking a trip to Patagonia, We have a bunch of content on this website with itineraries, guides, including how to book the W Trek, as I mentioned, in case you prefer to read. Everything you need, and I'll put this in the bio of this video. But yeah, thanks for watching, and hope you have an amazing time.